swayZ. I've been playing for, a couple of years, and I've just had like, a couple of wrist issues, and you helped me last time, so I just figured I'd hit you up again and see if we could get things working again.
Cool.
So
All right.
yeah.
So why don't you talk about the wrist issues you had last time? What did it feel like? What were some of the things that I gave you that kind of helped?
So it was elbow tendonitis, I think, or
Mhm.
maybe yeah, it was a little bit of everything, I think, just all over strain. And you gave me actually, let me pull up the site right here. You gave me Santa Monica physical therapy like routine that I was doing, which was it had good stretches and then strengthening, and like literally almost like a month later I gave it rest, stretched it, started strengthening, and it was good. And that
Cool.
was after like almost half a year of talking to like in-person physiotherapists, and they all misdiagnosed me and gave me different things, but what I did with you really worked. So
Awesome. Glad to hear that. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about what it was. So when you talk about tendinopathy, generally it's an overuse of the tendons of the forearm. So a lot of the strengthening exercises I gave you, if I remember correctly, were kind of like building endurance, building strength, building control. What are you feeling now that you feel like isn't being addressed by the stuff that you had before?
so it's a pinch. I gotta hold on, let me take a push talk so I can show you.
Yeah.
Okay. It feels like these two fingers here,
Mm-hmm.
it runs down my forearm here,
Mm-hmm.
up into like my elbow area. Even sometimes if I'm like pulling up something here, it'll like kind of give me like an electric zap
Oh,
feeling
okay.
down my arm.
Okay.
Um, but for the most part, it just feels like these two fingers, like down my ear, it just feels really stiff and tired.
Okay. Okay.
Tired.
Yeah, so that makes sense. Right away when you say things like electric shock, I'm already thinking nerve. That's like a differential keyword. And then these two fingers specifically, or these two fingers, I'll mirror you. That corresponds to the ulnar nerve. So it's the most commonly irritated nerve that I see in players. It's the nerve that runs from these two fingers down into your funny bone and then into your arm. So it makes a lot of sense. The reason I always talk about the ulnar nerve is when you play anything with the keyboard mouse, you're kind of in a pronated position with the desk kind of resting right on that nerve. So a lot of times it's just really irritable being in that position where it's already tensioned, and then trying to move your wrist is going to flare it up more. So as a quick test, we'll just kind of confirm or deny this. I want you to take your hand. You're going to put your pinky behind your ear, behind your headset. What do you feel anything there?
Yeah, it feels like kind of tingly, like a
Okay.
good difficult stretch. Yeah.
Is that going right to the area that you're describing?
Yeah, right in my hand,
Okay.
mostly. Not to my elbow, but in my hand, I can feel a lot in those two
Okay.
fingers, like
Okay.
very, very
Try
clearly.
try with the other arm. See if it feels any different.
Yeah, it feels pretty much the same. Yeah.
Same? Okay. So they're
Yeah.
both really tight and they're both tingling.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, both, yeah.
When you do this, right? Do that again. I want you to take your head and tilt away from your hand. Do you feel it more or less?
I think maybe a little bit less
Okay. What if you do this? Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. And then bring your hand back like that. Do you feel anything into the hand there? That
No,
that
not
takes all the
really.
tension out. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what if you bring your arm out like this straight and then bring your fingers upward? Do you feel anything there?
I feel that I do feel a little bit, but I feel it more in my three fingers than the
These three? Okay, so
yeah,
that's
yeah.
more the radial or the median nerve. Okay, so I think you might have some gross just neural tension, which means that it's not just one nerve that's impinged. It's probably you're probably feeling it the most with these two, but you overall you probably have a lot of nerve mobility issues. Have you had any neck pain at all?
Um, Maybe a little bit, but nothing that is like frequent or
Okay.
it just felt like sometimes maybe I'll sleep bad on it or something like
Like,
that. But other
is
than
it
that, not really.
one-sided or is it just stiff in general?
Just in general, yeah.
Okay, okay. Um, what about any sort of tension or tightness through the upper chest area, front of the neck?
Not really. I would say it's mostly like on the back of the neck if it's anywhere.
Okay, cool. So generally with this kind of stuff, what I like to think about nerve issues, especially nerve entrapment, this isn't progressed to the point yet where I think you have a pinched nerve and it's like really, really flared up. You're not feeling it with any other activities or anything, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
I'm not.
And then how long can you play before it starts to bother you?
I mean, depending. So recently, it like I went rock climbing and I think I overused it, and so after that, it was like instantly like I couldn't.
Flared
I had
up.
to just kind of take a break. Yeah.
Okay.
But now, I mean, if I like I can play a little bit, but if I get like really, warmed up, I play for a couple hours, something like that, then it gets really annoying. And just in general, it feels like as I'm warming up, it'll flare up and I gotta let it rest
I
for a little
see.
bit, like just a tiny bit, and then I can go again.
Okay.
But like if I'm just consistently you know, if I'm just aiming nonstop, like if I'm just doing like a warm up for like 30 minutes or something like that, it'll get really, really annoying. Even for like just hard aiming for like a
Yeah.
couple minutes, it'll flare up.
This is actually one of the interesting things about FPS players in general is that aim training is actually physiologically, or I should say biomechanically, much more stressful on you than playing the game itself. Because you're required to do sort of the most intensive part of the game, which is aiming, but you do it nonstop and there's no break.
Yeah,
So like you'll never have a Valorant game or anything where you're like aiming for 30 seconds. Like that just
right.
doesn't happen, right? It's always going to be intermittent bursts of stuff. But when you do aim training, you're kind of just doing that. You're gripping your mouse, you're moving in fine motor actions, you're clicking a lot. It's like it's more APM than you ever do in game. So I find
Yeah,
that aim training itself is actually a lot of times you have to think of that as being more mechanically stressful on your body than actually playing the game. So in
right.
some ways, defaulting to, hey, if I just want to get some light practice in as a warm up or whatever, maybe just, deathmatch, or just running, swift play, whatever, anything to simulate the game without as much of the actual aiming, if you are feeling flared up, might help. That being said, it's not a substitute for aim training because you could also just do that as a smaller block of time as a warm up. Um, that being said, okay, so when you're playing and you start to feel it, you take a break for a few minutes and it goes all the way back down, or do you feel like if you keep doing little sessions like that, it gets worse and worse over the day?
It'll still get worse and worse.
Okay.
But just in general, yeah, like I'll be warming up, then it'll just really like it'll actually get to the point where it's like, okay, this is hard to hold my mouse right now. So
Yeah.
then I'll have to like, stretch it out or just let it rest for a little bit and then I can go again, but it still feels uncomfortable. It's just not as bad as it was.
How long has this been going on?
Um, like a month or something
A
like that.
month.
I mean,
Okay.
um I've had that before, but it kind of went away.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. And
but
yeah, that's actually
yeah,
that's pretty normal. This stuff is always going to be something you're gonna have to deal with. Any gamer in general, but especially people playing competitive. I tell them like the nerve issues and the tendon issues are things you're gonna have to just manage kind of the rest of your career as long as you're playing.
right,
Even as a casual gamer, let's say that you decide I don't want to play competitive anymore. Odds are you're still going to be gaming, and if you're putting in anywhere close to like 4 to 6 hours a day throughout the day, there's going to be times when this stuff starts to add up. So don't ever think like this is an injury where you have to fix it because you're not really there yet. We're trying to get ahead of the injury, but it is something that you're going to basically have to just manage the rest of your life as long as you're playing. So
right.
mobility, just having good strength control, all that stuff is just super important long term. But basically, what I like to do with any nerve issues, especially when they're not progressed to the point of being a full blown injury yet, is start from the inside and move out. Meaning, start the source of the issue, which is your spinal cord. The spinal cord has branches that come out through your neck, into your arms, into your hands, fingers, all that. So they go outward. If we start trying to treat down here, you never really address the mobility deficits that are probably up here. So
Right.
posturally, what we want to do is give the nerves as much space as possible to move freely. I want you to practice doing like chin tucks, where you're retracting your neck. I know you give yourself a double chin, but what that does is it opens up these little joints in the back of your neck that the nerves come out of, and it also stretches some of these postural muscles in the back of your neck. A lot of times when we sit like this for a long period of time, not only are these muscles tightening up, which can give you headaches and stuff like that, you're basically mechanically closing down on the joints in the back of your neck that the nerves travel out of. So if you imagine the nerves as like a pipe, right? If you close down on one end, if they have to move, you're kind of just yanking on them. You're pulling them and they're entrapped. It's not going to feel very good for them. So we want to open that space up first. And then we also want to do some light stretches of the muscles on the sides of your neck, right? So chin tucks, you can hold that for like 3 to 5 seconds. And then you're going to do scalene stretches. So this is kind of tricky, but it's what I call a thinker stretch. You're going to tilt your head to the side and you're going to rotate towards the side that's up. Yeah. Do you
Like
feel that?
that?
Yeah. Do you feel that in the side
Yeah,
of your
yeah, yeah.
neck?
Down here,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So it's called the thinker stretch. I'm like, oh, What am I thinking about? Right.
Yeah,
But
man.
these muscles, they run vertically and then nerves come through them like that. So when they're really tight, they sandwich down and pinch the nerves too. So we can stretch these out lightly, loosen those up. That allows for the nerves to move more freely through the neck itself. All right. So chin tuck, scalene stretch, and then we're going to do a pec stretch. You're just going to bring your elbows back behind you. You're going to stretch the upper part of your chest, right? The nerves, I'm just following the pathway. The nerves go underneath the chest here and then into the arm. And then after that, after all this is loosened up, then we do nerve glides. So we're going to go back, that kind of provocative tensioning movement you did. When you go towards you, this is tensioned. When you go away from you, this is loosened. Okay. So you should feel more pulling as you come this way, and you're going to feel relaxation this way. The important thing with nerve glides is that when you fully tension, you want to stop when you start feeling symptoms. So if it's already really tight and you go here and you're like, oh, it's already zinging, don't force past that, right? Because then you're overstretching the nerve. You're going to go until you just barely start to feel it, and you're like, oh, I'm going to come back down. And you're going
Right.
to do that 10 to 15 times, all right? After 10 or 15 of those, it's probably going to feel a little bit looser. You can start pushing the range a little bit.
Right.
It's important to do nerve glides with consideration for more frequency. So I usually recommend doing them like 10 to 15 times, at least 3 times a day. Usually I would say, especially in your case, because you're already starting to feel some tension there, try doing the ulnar nerve glides before you play. At some point, throughout the session or maybe after every game, just do a few. And then after you're done, try it again. If you are
Okay.
feeling these 3 fingers as well, you can also do the other version of that, which is a median nerve glide, where you go this way, like that, right? So
All
palm
right.
away from you. Basically, just either, I sometimes do both together. So I'll kind of do like this rotational movement where I bring my palm towards me and then I bring my palm away from me, but fingers down.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
so
I feel
you're
that.
gonna feel a lot of that
Yeah.
tensioning through your whole arm, right? You can do that on both sides. I usually recommend doing one side at a time, mainly because again, the nerves come out both ends. They go this way. If you're tensioning both at the same time, you're really gonna feel it. If you do one at a time, you sort of have some give from the other side.
Yeah. Right.
So it tends to feel a little bit better unless you have a lot of mobility. This is stuff that again you probably have to keep going for forever, really. But consistently, I would say you'll see the most benefit if you do this 3 times a day for at least 2 to 4 weeks.
Okay.
After that, you can probably cut down to once or twice a day. But this is something that I mean, even when I play, like I'll be streaming League or Valorant or whatever, I always do these between games. So I have some nerve issue in this hand for my mouse. Usually between every game, I'll just do a few of these, like just to kind of keep it loose. Because you
Right.
got to think about stress and irritation as like 2 bars, right? Or 1 bar. Stress and irritation builds up as you play. Everything you do after brings it down a certain amount. If you can get that ratio to even out every single time, you're never gonna have a problem.
Right.
People have problems when their stress accrual rate does not match their recovery rate. So over time, it does this, and then
Yeah.
eventually it becomes like a full blown like, okay, I can't play anymore.
Right.
So you always want to think about ergonomics and stuff like having strength, having capacity as having a larger threshold to start with. And then everything you do after, stretches, nerve mobility, icing, any of that kind of stuff is your recovery rate. Okay.
Right.
So um, that's all of the actionable stuff I want you to think about. The other thing would also be, okay, what are the environmental considerations that you have? One, make sure that your armrest is level with your desk, so
Okay.
that you're not basically creating like a pinch point where your arm is resting on the desk, and then that creates like a pressure point where the nerve has to run
Right.
through. That's really
Okay.
irritable. And then you also don't want your mouse or level of your desk slash armrest to be such that your elbow is down or your elbow is too high,
Right.
right? You want it level with the ground if
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
What mouse do you use?
I use a super light.
Okay. Are you pretty high sense or low sense?
Like high for Valorant. Yeah.
High for
High
Valorant.
sense.
So okay, so with high sense, you're probably doing a lot more wrist movement than with people who play low sense with a heavier mouse.
Yeah.
Have you always used a super light?
I mean, not when I like first started playing, but for a long time, yeah, I have.
Okay, okay. And so it wasn't like the issues arose when you first started using this mouse.
No.
Okay. One thing I've noticed that I need more data for, but it's something I've seen across the board, is a lot of times when players switch from a mouse to a lighter mouse, they end up having a lot more wrist and hand gripping issues, because that transition of going from a heavier mouse to a lighter mouse, you end up tightening a lot more because you feel like you need more control. So that's one
Yeah.
of the secondary issues with the sort of the branding and companies thinking, oh, if you play FPS, you want the lightest mouse possible. You know, if you go from a mouse to another mouse that's half the weight, all of a sudden I see all sorts of like compression issues where they're
Yeah.
over gripping their mouse because they feel like suddenly they don't have control anymore. So something to consider is whether or not your sense is also going to contribute to more squeezing. And the reason that I think it's important you brought up rock climbing is when you grip and you squeeze, you actually increase a lot of pressure in the carpal tunnel area, which a lot of these nerves run through. It's not unusual that if you already have nerve irritation, that when you do something like rock climbing or death gripping your mouse, you actually exacerbate some of the nerve irritation.
Okay.
So make sure that when you're climbing, I still think climbing is good. Make sure that after you climb, you're doing a lot of stretches and you're doing a lot of like tendon gliding movements.
Okay.
Okay. You want to keep everything as mobile as possible because like compression over a long period of time really flares up nerves. It's
Right.
just like increasing pressure over a longer period of time. It's really irritable to that area. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and then again, like I was mentioning, sort of with the mouse, sensitivity can be a factor, but if you haven't changed your settings in a long time, I wouldn't touch them. It's just usually when players like, oh, I went from like low sense to high, and I got a super light mouse, and now my wrist is killing me. I'm like, that kind of makes sense. I would say let's
Yeah.
go halfway in between until you get used to it, and then you can progress. Usually,
Right.
when people switch settings, I don't want them to do night and day low to high sense. I usually recommend if your goal is to increase your sensitivity, you should be doing it in small increments over time. And then once you get there, then okay, then it'll feel natural.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there's a lot of times people just don't really think about the biomechanical factors of when you switch your settings. It actually does make a difference in how you play. So okay, cool. And then well, before I go on, I just spoke a lot. So any questions on any of that stuff?
No, that all made sense. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then when you oh shoot, now I just lost. Oh yeah, what's your exercise level like right now? What's your current activity level like?
Before I injured my wrist, I was going rock climbing and like 4 times a week. So pretty
Okay.
active.
When you say you injured your wrist, you're talking about when you went climbing, your wrist started bothering
Yeah,
you?
it was just like we went outdoor climbing for the first time, and I just definitely put
Oh,
more
okay.
effort in that time, and then it was like, yeah, definitely went a little bit too hard. Wrist hurts now.
Are you going with Clerky?
Yeah,
Okay. This guy
yeah,
loves climbing. Like
yeah. We got the whole program on
all
it.
right. All right. Yeah, I think it's really good. Outdoor is definitely much harder, and it's less controllable because there's just no control over the variables, right? Like at least with a regular rock wall, you sort of know like this grip is this difficulty.
Yeah.
With outdoor, there's a lot more, I guess, variance in terms of what you're doing. So, you know, just have fun with it. And whenever, do you go to the gym as well, or do you work out?
I was before. Yeah.
Okay. If climbing is something you enjoy, I would start designing your gym workouts around how to make you better at climbing.
Right.
So, what I mean is, I would focus a lot on strengthening like retractor muscles, strengthening the muscles in your back, even your legs, right, are super important with climbing. Hamstring strength is really important, core strength.
Yeah.
If it's something you want to get better at, try to build more ability to use the stronger core muscles and back muscles instead of your hands. That takes a lot of
Right.
stress off your forearms, a lot of stress off the areas that are already affected by some of this stuff.
Right. That
Cool.
makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Any questions for me? How's yeah.
No, not really. That was just pretty much. So I got the chin tucks, the nerve
Yep.
stretches,
Think
and the
top to
the,
bottom.
the thinker.
Yeah. I'll actually message it to you right now. So
Okay.
I'll type it out in more technical terms, but if you Google these, it should come up with exactly what it is.
Okay. Cool.
Yo, what's up? What's up, Matt? How's it going? Cervical retractions, scalene stretch, and I'll copy and paste it into chat too. So if anyone watching wants to copy these down, scalene stretch, pec minor stretch, ulnar / median nerve glides. And this is just generally good stuff for every gamer to be doing regularly. Um, I find that these are sort of a generalized thing that you can benefit from. Hey, what's up, ISAT? How's it going? Oh yeah, who damn, Matt flexing the peak V8. That's wild. I think I peaked like V5, so I'm not, and I don't do it well. It's literally because I have a disgusting upper body strength ratio to body mass. Like I can just literally like pull myself up with my hand. So I definitely cheat when I climb. Cool. Well, how's collegiate, competitive esports life like?
I mean, it's good. We have a good schedule, and we're not doing as well as we'd like to, but I mean, we'll work on that.
I mean,
But I mean,
results based analysis is never good, right? Are you guys
yeah,
improving?
as far as yeah, we are. And as
Yeah,
far as like just the enjoyment, it's really good being
that's
on
awesome.
campus.
Yeah,
It's great. Yeah.
that's awesome. Well, happy to hear it. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. Big fan of you guys in the program. So yeah, keep it up.
Cool.
I'm glad you reached out. So hopefully other people can benefit from this as well.
Yeah, it was great talking to you. Thank
All
you.
right.